Welcome in episode 3 of Don't Spill The Mixie podcast, alongside my co-host Matt Vieneman. Matt, what are we drinking tonight?
Oh, Big Red, got some good news. I did get that Red Solo Cup this week. So episode 3 came through. I am sipping a nice cool Pilsner, a nice Miller Lite tonight. Gonna keep it light and refreshing. How about yourself?
Ooh, I got a nice little cold long drink. So I'm
Ooh,
blue cans tonight. We got a little citrus, little Monday citrus, little kick.
nice. Cheers,
So
my friend.
cheers,
Episode
brother.
3.
Episode 3 on the way. And we have an absolutely jam-packed episode. We are going to fly through a whole bunch of content here tonight. We got WrestleMania recap. You and I were both locked into that all weekend long.
Oh, man, what a weekend, baby.
What a weekend it was.
Mania
Alongside
in
that,
Vegas.
we got NBA playoff coverage, some recaps. I feel like first weekend was a little bit of a dud in terms of good matchups, but we'll talk about that. And then alongside that, we're gonna quick chat about some football stuff. We have a couple news and notes. It's NFL draft week. You're actually
Let's
coming back
go.
here to the homeland to hang out with some buddies this weekend and watch the draft all weekend long. So we'll hit on that a little bit.
Definitely.
Lee Corso's retiring, so we'll hit on that too. And then I think we got a spicier one for our food debate to bring it home. So, but first we're gonna get to the straw that stirs the drink here. WrestleMania 41 from Vegas. Let's do this thing.
Let's kick it off.
So we're gonna breeze through some stuff here. Obviously, some of the matchups were more entertaining than others. Some of them caught our attention more than others. Night one, we'll start there. Jade Cargill defeated Naomi. Not really that interesting, not really that intriguing. I don't know if you had any thoughts about that one quick, but
Yeah, they tried to do a backstory line on that where they thought Liv Morgan or Raquel Rodriguez hit Jade Cargill with a car, because it was Jade Cargill, Bianca, and Naomi were the threesome, and it ended up being Naomi being jealous of that, and Naomi's the one that hit Jade Cargill, which has stirred the pot and which created this entire matchup. But Jade Cargill is a beast.
she's a dude. Let's just call a spade a spade. Like
just yoked, and yeah,
absolutely terrifying.
Absolutely terrifying. Going to be at the top for a long time. A very good tactical wrestler. Deserved that win, and yeah, that's all I had on that matchup.
Next one that really didn't do a whole lot for me in terms of moving the needle. World Tag Team Championship, New Day defeated War Raiders. A little bit of a surprise, I guess.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting New Day to win. The New Day. I really do like Kofi, so I was happy for him. I was
Kofi's
expecting, yeah, Kofi back when it was just him, and he would do the whole boom, 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 and like from hailing from Jamaica and everything. And then he ended up winning the title, which was amazing, probably 4 or 5 years ago. And then joined the New Day, and they've always been kind of a backstory. But I'm glad that they won. I'm looking forward to tonight on Raw, after we record this, to take a look at that and see what they come out and say. But yeah, kind of a meh matchup, but happy that they won, and the War Raiders can kind of go back to the wayside, and we'll see what comes up for this next tag team division. So.
Next one that didn't move the needle at all for me. They even kind of made it a joke of a fight during the broadcast. I thought El Grande Americano defeated Ray Phoenix. I thought this was just like some good actual wrestling, but in terms of like storylines and overall excitement, there was zero buzz in the arena for this one.
Yeah, I think they were trying to do a storyline in some regards according to the current state of politics, I guess, is the only way I can say. Maybe it's a hot take, maybe it's not. With El Grande Americano hailing from the Gulf of America, and he's fighting a luchador from Mexico in the whole U.S. versus Mexico and the border and everything. So if that's the case, it's very poor taste and very not well done, which I actually myself believe that that's the case. The fight was what the fight is. We all know it's Chad Gable. So I know there's a lot of people pretty worked up about that storyline and being in bad taste. So not surprised that it ended up the way it did. That was the way that it was being sold and all the Monday Night Raws leading up to it. But yeah, it was a okay match, but just I think in somewhat poor taste.
Yep, I would agree. And then kind of ramping up in intrigue and intensity, the U.S. Championship on night one, Jacob Fatu defeated L.A. Knight. I thought this one was a pretty good matchup.
Hmm.
Um, I thought they kind of went toe to toe for a while there. L.A. Knight, I thought L.A. Knight was going to hold this one. Fatu doesn't have quite as big of a name brand in my opinion yet, so I was kind of surprised that he took the belt.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be one. It's always interesting when the belts change hands in Mania, because normally that's signifying that those folks that take the belt are gonna have a huge year between this Mania and next one. So there probably is going to be big plans for Fatu, whether it's him in solos matches or if they try to bring the bloodline back in some regards because he's part of that. Um, but yes, he deserved it. I'm a big LA Knight fan. Yeah. But I was hoping he was going to retain, but I'm not mad that Fatu won. It was a good match.
It seems like they're really leaning into all of the guys in the bloodline too. Like all of those guys were very front and center during Mania. Um, Roman Reigns obviously had a big match. The Usos were both out there after Jay. We'll talk about that one in a second. Um, Solo Sikoa was part of Fatu's entrance crew.
Yep.
So I feel like they were really trying to spotlight those. That seemed like a running theme throughout the entire weekend, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think they're setting something up with the bloodline. It's probably
Somebody's
going to
going to
be two.
backstab somebody, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be two separate ones. And there's way too many rumors of the Shield coming back and reuniting in some regards now that they have that um, partnership with TNA and John Moxley or the old Dean Ambrose coming back and partnering up with Rollins and Reigns in some regards. So I think there's going to be something to do with that, and there's got to be something to do with the bloodline. And it's going to be interesting to see what they do with the whole Paul Heyman storyline too, partnering and aligning with Seth Rollins too. And I know we'll get to that here in a little bit, but it's setting up for another good year until next Mania for sure.
Yep. So next, this one was interesting. I was texting you kind of during this one. WWE Women's Championship, Tiffany Stratton defeated Charlotte Flair. I was kind of laughing. My wife was laughing during this one too. This was just blonde hair extensions, just covering the entire camera lens. Like it was just flying blonde hair everywhere, and the I felt like this didn't play out the way that they wanted it to, and it didn't work the way that they wanted it to.
No, and I think Charlotte was originally supposed or intentionally supposed to win. There was a moment in there where Stratton went for her knee, and I think it actually did some damage to her knee because I thought I heard her. I got to go back and listen to it, but thought I heard her either mouth or whisper, "Pin me," because I think she was actually hurt. And then two moves later, she got pinned. So I think she had something happened to her knee because she did say "pin me" or something to that regard. Um, but yes, a lot of blonde hair, a lot of extensions, a lot of Botox, a lot of work that did not need to be done. Yeah. Because they were both um attractive in their own right, and I just think when they did all that stuff, they just didn't need to do it. But both good, really good wrestlers, a good match. Um, but surprised that Charlotte didn't get that title back and create some sort of storyline between now and a year from now. But who knows? Maybe she'll end up taking it back at some point over the next couple months. Maybe Money in the Bank or Backlash.
I was surprised that there wasn't more cohesion with their moves together. I felt like they were disjointed in terms of like the flow of the overall match.
Yeah, it doesn't help that Charlotte has been injured or been away for a long time. She just came back, I think 2, 3, or 4 weeks before this, so she hasn't been. I know Michael Cole always calls it ring rust. There was definitely a lot of ring rust there, and I agree. It wasn't as um, smooth as what it should be, just because I think she's been out of the ring for so long that it just didn't click for her right away.
Do you think it's awkward for other wrestlers with her giant knee brace trying to do moves and things like that. Like, I would legitimately be concerned about smacking my knee against her giant metal knee brace. Like, that would legitimately be a problem for me.
Yeah, or if you're punching, or if you're going like you said with your knee, or if you're going to do something with your shoulder, it's a pseudo weapon at that point.
Yep.
Like, and
She's going for grabs and stuff like that, and all of a sudden, like, if she's like grabbing around your neck with her legs or something like that, that would kill.
definitely, yep, yeah, it's that's a good point. I didn't even think about that, but that was the knee that she went, and then she did say, "Pin me," and I was like, that's kind of interesting, which made me think that she probably should have won. So again, watching Raw tonight, going to be interesting to see if she comes out and if she's in a on crutches or in a cast or whatever, to see if it was actually a legit injury or if it was just something that was part of the storyline.
And then night one wrapped up with the triple threat match. Seth Rollins defeated Roman Reigns and CM Punk. This one was a big talking point after night one. Um, Paul Heyman's shenanigans. This is going to be I think the storyline for probably the remainder of the season would be my hunch. This is going to
Definitely.
weave its way for weeks and weeks and months and months. I
Yeah, and
think.
he's gonna flip flop. He's gonna be with Seth one week, then he's gonna realign with Roman, and then he's gonna backstab Roman. He's gonna be with CM Punk. So it set them up for a number of different ways they can take that storyline. So I understand why they did it, and it's intriguing, and it gives them just they can just it's a whole web that they can weave with this whole thing and just run with it for the next 12 months or through the rest of this year. To your point,
Has Heyman ever actually wrestled? Like, has he ever been in the ring and put a move on somebody or actually been, I'm sure, I think I remember him actually being pinned or tossed or stuff like that when he was the advocate for Lesnar.
Lesnar. Yeah, I don't know if he was. I'm sure he was in some like pseudo like filler matches where it was just like a joke. He wasn't actually wrestling. I don't know. Well, I'd have to look it up. But he came in originally with CM Punk, so he was a CM Punk guy to start, and that's what started this whole storyline back to way back in the day when Punk first came in. Punk brought him in, and he was his advocate and his wise man. And then when he left, he latched on to Lesnar and then to Reigns, and then this whole storyline between him and CM Punk and Rollins.
See, I
But
thought he was a longer standing character than that, but that would put him only like he's been around what, less than 10 years probably.
yeah, some people get him confused with Paul Bearer because
Okay.
they're pretty much the same size and stature. Because Paul Bearer was the one that always carried the urn full of ashes out for the Undertaker and the Brood. So some people think that they're the same person. They're not the same person. They look very similar though, very short and stocky. But uh, that match was great. I love the pay per views because everybody gets to use their finishing moves 4 or 5 times, and they get to use other people's finishing moves 4 or 5 times, and the match just keeps going and going and going. Um, the end was pretty lackluster when he first handed the chair to CM Punk and then took him out. And then he gave the low blow to Reigns and handed it to Rollins, and then Rollins ended it with a stomp. So yeah, we'll see where that storyline goes. Great match. Three of the top wrestlers currently on the roster. So that was good to see, and it was a good end to night one.
Yeah, I thought the same thing with the last fight. Like it was building, it was building, it was building, and you got three guys with tremendous finishers,
Yeah.
and then the match itself just went completely comatose the last 5 minutes, and then just didn't land because
Nope.
nobody got to really land it with a big finisher.
Nope. Yep. Yeah. Outside of the stomp and the chair. Yeah. It was a great match though. It
Yep.
was good to see all those finishing moves. And I was telling somebody today, it's just interesting. Oh, my buddy Cody was here, and I was like, so it goes to show you that Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, they usually end those matches on one finishing move, maybe two. Um, but then you go to the WrestleMania and the pay per views, and like I said, they're using either four or five at the same time. Sometimes Reigns will use Rollins' pedigree, and CM Punk will use the Superman punch, and they use their own other finishing moves. But I thought it was a really good match.
Yep, I agree. I agree. So that was night one. Good wrap up with night one there. Night two, again, we'll kind of go rapid fire here. Um, I didn't think the women's world, and again, this is coming from the standpoint of the women's stuff never really gets me that excited just because the level of athleticism is never going to be there. Um, the women's world championship I didn't think was all that exciting. Io Sky held serve against Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. The only thing I will say about this is I always laugh and like hardcore cringe when Bianca pulls out the whip.
Oh, her hair.
That just is
she
insane.
she connected on that with Rhea at one point, and I think she ended up like showing a. I saw a picture of a scar. I think she got whipped like across the eye socket, and you could see like the outline of the hair on her face when she got smacked.
For all the haters out there about like the level of scriptedness and this, that, and the other thing about it not being real, the hair whips are absolutely as real as it gets. There's no faking that. Those are insanely real and insanely painful, and I give them credit for anybody that signs up to take that.
Yeah, same thing when you're getting hit with a chair, or you're going through those tables. Like it may be scripted, it may be put on to a certain extent, but that's real. Like they're going through those tables. It may not be the sturdiest of tables, but they're still getting thrown over the top through a table and hitting the ground. It's still, to your point, legit. I did like the match. I was kind of expecting Io Sky to retain just because of the way it was being led up, and she was an afterthought, and it was always Rhea Ripley versus Bianca Belair and all of the matches leading up to it. Um, I was kind of hoping that Rhea was going to win. She's grown on me over the last couple months, especially since she's left the Judgment Day. And she is just, I think she's the top um, women's wrestler right now, hands down. So she'll be fine in the long run. So it's good that Io retained. I don't think she's going to retain it through Backlash, or if she does, it's not going to be retained through Money in the Bank. Um, but yeah, she's the top until we'll talk about it a little later. There was a surprise that came back in the women's division tonight as well that got everybody juiced, and I got chills when that music hit. So we'll get to that here in a little bit.
Next one up, Drew McIntyre defeated Damian Priest.
Yeah, to
Meh.
me, to me, this was the best match.
Really?
Definitely. Again, hot take. I don't think it's a hot take. That was hands down the best match of both nights.
I
Those two
disagree.
guys going at it. I was never a McIntyre fan. He's grown on me a lot, man. I can't hold anything against the guy. I think he is going to be the next one up to be able to. He's earned the right based on the quality of matches and what he brings to the table and how the promos he cuts and how he handles his business. I guarantee you, one of the next 2 or 3 pay-per-views, he's at the top challenging for one of the belts. And Damian Priest has come a long way too. That was by far, in my opinion, the best match of both nights.
Dang. Okay, that's a hot take.
Yeah, the way you set it up, I was like, man, he must not have liked this. You must not have liked this match at all. And I was like, this is probably my favorite one.
I just it didn't get the juices flowing for me. I don't know. I've too similar of styles in my opinion, and sometimes the big slow guys just don't really do it for me.
Yeah,
And those very similar style guys where they kind of trudge a little bit through the match. Um, Sometimes that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you need guys to slow things down and hunker things down into the ring a little bit because you can get guys that get squirrely out there too. But
yeah. Well, you're also talking to a big slow guy,
that's
so
fair. That's fair.
I gotta stick with what I know, right? We're not all lightning quick and agile like yourself, my
You're
friend.
not all 5'11" like me.
Exactly, and quick as a cat.
Next one up, this hot take, this was my best matchup of the two nights. The Intercontinental Championship on night two. Dominic Mysterio defeated Braun Breaker, Finn Balor, and Penta. I thought this was absolutely electric. This is my kind of WWE matchup. Just four guys very high intensity, high flyers, a lot of back and forth, a lot of quick subsequent moves. And I thought this was, I don't know what your thoughts were. This was my best finish in terms of like overall climactic ending to a fight for the weekend.
Yeah, I would agree with you there. This is my number two, behind the one we just went over. It's interesting listening to Cena talk today after Mania about how high in regards he has and the company has for Dirty Dom. He had gone on the record today saying that when it's all said and done, he's going to be the most well-known Mysterio, and that's even saying pacing his dad, Rey Mysterio, who's already a Hall of Famer. He said big things are in line for him. His technique, he's tactical, his in ring, the way he carries himself, the way he can um, carry a crowd, whether if he's a baby face or a heel. They said that, and I could see it. But when Dom first came in, it was like, oh yeah, he's being portrayed as Ray's son, and that's all he's ever gonna be. But this match was good too because it had Finn Balor, two people from the Judgment Day, so it's going to be interesting. I think this is also signaling the end of the Judgment Day. I think that needed to come to an end. So that stable needed to come to an end, and I think that did with what happened last night between him and Finn Balor. Penta, big things are going to be in play for him. His athleticism and just the way he goes about his business, second to none. Regardless of if you're a fan of the luchador and the mask or not, great wrestler. Same with Braun Breaker. I think a nephew of the Steiners. So yeah, Big Papa Pump and all that. So good bloodline, and he has big things in play for him too. I think it was okay for him to lose that because I think he's going to start being challenging for bigger belts in the future.
Yeah, I was surprised that was really the first time I had seen him fight in anything that big. He's a significantly high flyer for how big of a guy he is, and he does some pretty insane moves. I was pretty blown away by his fighting style because I was expecting a little bit more ground-based attack kind of on the mat, similar to a Drew McIntyre, similar to a Damian Priest, similar to a Roman Reigns type of matchup where most everything's ground-based, ground and
Yeah.
pound kind of.
Yep.
And he's very much not that way. I mean, he's going up top turnbuckle, he's flying, he's jumping, doing flips, everything. So he's jumping out of the ring, he's going after people. His move onto the Spanish announce table was absolutely electric. We were going back and forth on that one. The I don't know what
uh,
the actual odds might have been, but there's no way you could have gotten halfway decent odds on nobody breaking the Spanish announce table because that's a guaranteed at Mania. You got to go through the Spanish announce table.
Yeah, that's the only reason why they put it down there because they don't have it for any of the Raws. And I think it was funny you texted me. It said something along like minus 6,000 or minus 60,000. The Spanish announce tables broke.
Gotta have
And
it. Just there's no money to be made on betting the Spanish announce table to be broken because it's just
oh
always
man,
going to happen during
it's
Mania.
so classic and so funny every single time. It's even I don't think they did it this time, but sometimes they'll cut out to the Spanish broadcast as they know the table's gonna get broke, and the Spanish announcers are just going crazy. They're like, no.
It was funny too because Brittany was watching with me night two, and they broke the U.S. announce table where McAfee, Michael Cole, and Wade, what's his name, were all standing, and she noticed literally, and then at the start of the next fight, they had the whole thing put back together, and it was all standing, and they had everything like set up perfectly, ready to go again, and she goes, "Oh, it couldn't have been that broken. They just put it back together in about 5 minutes."
Yeah, but the second night when the Spanish announce table got taken out, they shattered the wood. Like I don't know if I was looking on the floor, and there must have been some white wood on below holding it up. The whole thing got shattered. It was when Breaker speared Carlito
Yep.
through the Spanish announce table. That and he was actually legit hurt because he did something and like split a solid piece of wood, and there were splinters all over the place. I don't think they ended up getting that back up so easy.
So that was a dominant showing. Overall, by those four, I think that was super entertaining. I was locked into that one. Really enjoyed that one. Next one, you and I were just talking about this before we started recording. Randy Orton's matchup, in my opinion, as much as I love the Viper's just an iconic character in WWE. This one was just a complete dud. He defeated TNA champion Joe Hendry, and as a casual, I had no idea who Joe Hendry was before he walked out. But this one just didn't land, and you could tell it didn't land.
Yeah, you knew it was going to be a filler match, especially when KO got hurt because he was supposed to fight Kevin Owens. That would have been a significantly better match. I came to be introduced to Joe Hendry when I went to Chicago board game weekend with my buddies. One of the guys just huge, huge, huge fan of WWE, of TNA, and he had brought up, he's like, "Have you heard of Joe Hendry?" And you should go out and Google some of his entrances. So when in TNA, he specifically does his entrances to mock whoever he's fighting that night to try to get in their head. So his entrance theme for every match is a mockery of his opponent. It's just that's the biggest part of him is just his entrance themes and all that kind of stuff. The wrestling, he's okay. Kind of figured that's the way the match would go, like 2, 3, 4 RKO's. But Randy Orton, man, one of my all-time favorites. Came out phenomenal shape. He came out in his old original attire, all dark. So I think they're teeing it up where he's going to be more on the main roster and not just a maybe one show a month or two shows a month. I think he's coming back to do some pretty big things.
You love it, RKO. You've
Love
always loved
RKO.
RKO.
Love it, man. Love it.
He did a great job of kind of filling the gap between people that didn't know Hendry too at the end and kind of doing the mockery of it. He kind of played that up at the end and kind of spun it back on him a little bit. So that was kind
Oh
of
yeah,
funny.
when he was looking away from the camera and then he turned around and did
Yeah.
like the Joe Hendry thing, but
Yep.
then ended up doing his yeah, that was amazing. And the whole crowd is laughing. He was laughing. So yeah, it ended up being a pretty funny match and he made the best of it.
Then next, Logan Paul defeated AJ Styles. This one I wanted to like a lot more than I ended up liking. I'm actually kind of a Logan Paul guy. I think he's really good for the brand. I think he does really good things for them. He's a really good villain for them in terms of being a very polarizing character. He plays that card very well. I also just like his wrestling style. I think he is a great high flyer and he's willing to throw his body around, which is super fun. So I enjoy having him. I think he's a great character for him. This matchup, I just don't ever think I don't think it ever really got off the ground and it didn't generate the buzz in the arena like they were hoping it was going to.
No, and it's disappointing too because I'm a big Phenomenal One AJ
I like AJ
Styles
too,
fan.
actually.
Um, Unfortunately, I think after this match, he's on the downward swing of his career. I don't think um, he's going to come back and be at the peak or challenge for anything moving forward. But yeah, you're right. Logan did. He is a high flyer. I don't, for how short he's been in the business, some of his finishing moves and some of the athleticism that he portrays out there is just second to none. And I think they're going to take that and run with it. His thing is, though, he's going to have to be not just a I'm going to show up for the pay-per-view kind of guy. He's going to have to show up at least for a couple Monday Night Raws or SmackDowns a month. And I don't know if he's fully that committed to it. That's something that's probably going to be in the works. Like how committed is he to this and to the character? But if he is, it's going to be really good because, like you said, he's very polarizing. He would be one that, like when Cena turned heel, you'd be very surprised if he turned babyface. Like, what? I don't even know if he'd be able to. Like, I don't think people would be fully on board. I think they're more on board with him being a heel and being against him and booing him. So,
Yeah, I think we've been watching the doc or their TV show Paul American a little bit on Max, and it's been kind of interesting. There's been a couple scenes where they show him working out and doing the wrestling thing, and then they show Jake Paul doing the boxing thing too. And I true having watched that, it seems like he does put in a significant amount of effort to be really good at what he does, which I guess doesn't really surprise me. Like he's the best, one of the best YouTubers, one of the best social media personalities. Like he's gone completely all in on basically everything that he's been successful with. So to think that he wouldn't do the same for this would be kind of an anomaly. But I think to your point, like you were saying, his finishing moves are top tier. It seems like he does put in a significant amount of effort when he is on the stage to be prepped and ready to go and be able to put on a good show. I think this one just kind of fell flat, and everybody knew that he was going to win was the other thing. It just never really felt like AJ was that big of a contender, and it didn't feel like he was really ever going to have a shot to win it. The other thing from this one that I thought was interesting at the end was this felt like that this was the writers kind of turning a little bit of a page for Logan Paul and not having him use the brass knuckles. I don't know if you thought anything of that and like
Oh yeah,
actually winning this one outright clean.
when his buddy came out and was
Yep,
supposed to, and then Karrion Kross stopped him and handed him to AJ Styles, and then AJ didn't end up using him.
yep.
So yeah, I would agree. Yep, that's why I'm really looking forward to watching Raw tonight. The best part is on Netflix, so you can fast forward through all the commercials, so you can watch the 3 hours in about an hour and a half.
Yep.
So it'll be good to catch up on that, and maybe we can touch base on that next week, quick, just as a Raw after Mania recap.
Yeah, there's always more storylines that come to light when everybody's given the mic again
Mm-hmm.
the Monday after Mania. So that was that one. A couple left here, a couple big heavy hitters left here. Women's Tag Team Championship. This one got some buzz going. This one got people out of their seats. You were pretty hyped about this one. Becky Lynch came back out of nowhere after, I believe, over 12 months being out
Yep,
and teamed up with Lyra Valkyria, and they defeated Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, who were the title holders of the day. A lot of buzz from this one with Becky Lynch coming back.
definitely. I got chills. I was always a big Becky Lynch and the Man fan. They kind of changed her character a little bit away from that, so it was really nice to see her come back out as the Man, wearing all black. When she was the Man and she was at the top of the game, she was definitely the top wrestler in general, regardless of male or female. She was just that. She was just that good. Her character was just that good. So I don't think it's a coincidence that Bailey got an injury. Not sure if that was real or not. My guess is it wasn't, because they were trying to convince Becky to come back, which probably took a while. But she did come back, and they ended up getting the win. And the whole storyline, to your point, was Liv and her were in a cage match about 11, 12 months ago. And Liv keeps her claim to fame was she was the one that retired the Man. She was the one that retired Becky Lynch. So for her to come back and help Lyra Valkyria, who is also up and coming superstar, so to have her team up and help her win is just a great storyline, man. I got chills. Like I was telling you, they panned to the crowd and there was a lady who was in tears when Becky's song hit. So which is just crazy, but man, it just goes to show you, man. They had 65,000 people each night. They were almost sold out, the all of Allegiant, a football stadium. Um, just goes to show you how much people are into this and into the storylines, and just really cool to see.
Yeah, I was telling people at the office today, we were talking about this episode of the podcast coming out, and I feel like a lot of people that are our age have kind of seemingly grown out of it. I was one of those people for a while, but I was telling people in the office, this WWE is very much not a niche thing. Like it is still extremely popular. I think it's probably on the rise again, and it's very much in mainstream like discussion and part of mainstream culture. I mean, I was looking at just general news articles from today, and this was like the WWE WrestleMania recap on Yahoo was like the third article on their homepage behind I forget the first one. That the first one was the Pope. I forget the second one. But this was the third one behind that the next day after. So I mean it's getting clicks, it's got staying power. WWE's got juice right now. So kudos to them for riding the wave. And I think overall both nights delivered pretty well. I'd give it a we'll get to the last one here, but I'd give it a an 8.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Was it Was I completely locked in the entire 2 nights end to end? No, there were a couple duds in there. There were a couple that just didn't land, and especially as a casual, there were a couple that just didn't do it for me. Uh, the last one I had to catch up on this morning because I did not make it to the end with work this morning. Uh, I thought this was a little bit of a surprise, to be honest with you. I haven't gotten your take on this one at all. Cena defeats Cody Rhodes to take the undisputed WWE Championship and holds the belt. This one kind of surprised me. I thought this might be kind of his swan song and ride off into the sunset, but they're going to play this going away tour out a little bit longer and see if they can get a little bit more run out of it, and I was kind of surprised by that.
Yeah, I was too. But then listening to Cena talk through it today, I think he's taking the belt and they want to do a transition from the Stone Colds and the Rock and the Undertaker because this belt has been around for so long. It's the oldest standing belt. So I think in that regards, I didn't think about it that way, but they did a very good job. If that was the intent, obviously, is Cena taking the belt, taking that championship, and closing a chapter now that he's retiring and he can take it with him. And now, either tonight or at some point, they're going to debut a new belt and a new type of championship for the newest generation of superstar. So I had no idea. I wasn't even thinking that. But when he laid that out today, I was like, oh man, that actually makes a ton of sense. And it's actually really cool that they had that storyline planned for this long and nobody knew that this was the entire intent of this match and Cena coming back.
This kind of seals him in most people's minds as the GOAT too, I would imagine, right? Even though he's going out in a way that I don't think a lot of his longtime fans are enjoying. I think this kind of solidifies that WWE is portraying him to be the GOAT by giving him the belt. That to me signifies that.
Yeah. Yep. And it makes sense. And then the other thing that they were talking about too is Ric Flair, when he had 16, nobody ever judged him, and he was the dirtiest player in the game. He won his titles by taking the protector off the top turnbuckle and running people's heads into the metal and hitting his opponent with the belt and using brass knuckles and doing it the dirty way in order to win. So they're like, why are you holding it against Cena to do it to win 17 when he won 16 legit? And you're okay with Ric Flair having 16 and being the dirtiest player in the game. So just very that whole interview today on McAfee was very interesting and it opened my it shed a lot of light on some of the questions I had as far as what that storyline was intended for.
I think people will be surprised at how Cena's remembered 15, 20 years from now when he's actually fully retired and everything else too. People will always look back fondly on people once they're retired and they've ridden off into the sunset. I think that's probably how that'll play out. And he'll always be like once he goes away, he'll swing right back to being a fan favorite, number one in people's hearts again, even though people aren't liking the way that they're writing him out of the story. I think it's going to pivot back to him being completely fondly remembered, and very few people will have negative things to say.
Definitely. One last take on this though is I think that version of Cena in the ring last night and the aggressiveness and the aggressive clotheslines and not just relying on the you can't see me, the five knuckle shuffle and the attitude adjustment, the old original FU. I think that was the best version of him, man. That was him unleashing and just being aggressive and just that. It's kind of sad. I like this version of Cena. It's not just a standard cookie cutter babyface Cena. So that was probably one of the best matches I've ever seen him in, just from a pure wrestling standpoint and aggression.
It was a very entertaining match to watch too. I thought they did a good job with the move set. I think Cody's always entertaining. I think he brings the juice, but I thought they did a good job of the two of them did a good job going head to head, and I thought there were some good moments. The crowd was into it. There was enough lead up to it to get people's attention, and I think it delivered. I thought it brought what people wanted it to bring, in my opinion, anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. One last take on the on Mania before we switch topics. The whole Stone Cold coming out
That
on
was
the four
hilarious.
him coming out on the four wheeler. And I was reading today that he must have been having a few Steve Weisers beforehand, because the reason it took him, his music hit, and then it was like a long delay of his music like replaying 2 or 3 times. He went the wrong way on the four wheeler and had to go back around the other side of the stadium to get to where he had to come out at. And then he came out and he goes down the ramp and he's buzzing around. And on the second time, he just slams the thing into the wall and like knocks a lady over.
They kind of they didn't really show it because I don't think they wanted to cause any
No,
reaction or anything like
no.
that. But after he was done with his little promo on in the ring, he quick ducked back over there. And was it the CFO? Who's Khan?
Yeah, Khan is he is the TNA. But
Okay.
they just did a partnership with him so they can have, that's why Joe Hendry could come over, so they're sharing talent.
Okay. Well, he popped over there to check, and like X was just blowing up with, man, she's gonna be filing a lawsuit faster than you even know what to do with. They're gonna be out so much money. Like people were just blowing up over that, and then Stone Cold stuck his head over the wall just to make sure that she was actually okay. And I would assume she was. She didn't take it like full brunt with the quad or whatever. She got knocked by the wall, so I would assume she's okay. Hopefully
Yeah.
she is, but um, I don't think anybody was overly concerned last night. So, but it was absolutely hilarious because that was not according to how that script was supposed to go in any form or fashion.
And then there was like this long delay. He was trying to figure out if he could put it in reverse and back it up off the wall, and then he finally just gave up.
Yeah, then he just hopped off and jumped on
Yes.
stage.
Oh man, so good.
Uh,
So couldn't wrap up Mania without hitting on that last topic. So
that was funny. So overall, I'd say 8.5 for the weekend. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was definitely worth the watch. I was entertained. I enjoyed it. It was good. Couple that, like I said, that didn't hit for me, but there were a couple of really good ones that I really, really enjoyed. So good stuff. I'm mostly a casual. I'm mostly a pay-per-view guy, so I'll rely on your hot takes going forward to see where things lie. But we're not that far away from next one's what?
Backlash in
Backlash,
three
and
weeks,
then
two
Money in the
weeks.
Bank's not that far away.
Nope. Money in the Bank is late May before SummerSlam.
I do love SummerSlam though. That's the one I always try to get the TV out on the porch and watch it with the good weather and everything else. Watch it
Yeah.
outside if the bugs aren't too bad.
Yep.
So, but good stuff by WWE. Next up on the docket here, we're going to kind of fly through this because, in my opinion, it was a little bit of a dud. NBA playoffs, weekend one. I was pretty excited about it. I was hoping for some good games. We've actually got a game going on right now that I care about. The Pistons are playing the Knicks in game two, and I'm curious what the score is. Pistons are up 4.
There we
So good
go.
news there.
That's my pick. They let me down in the first game. They were right there neck and neck, and then I think Brunson went on a 20-point run or something, or they went on a 20-point run. The Knicks did, and it's the score did not tell how close the game was. So I had a good feeling that the Pistons were gonna take game two. So if they could take game two, I think this goes to at least 6 or 7.
Yep. I would agree. They proved that they belong and they proved that they can hang. In game one, they weren't. I was texting my dad during game one, and they proved that they could hang. They survived the first 5 minutes at the Garden. The place was buzzing. The Knicks came out, were hitting a couple shots, and generally, a lot of times, what you see is an inexperienced team kind of gets a little bit phased. I think Detroit's too gritty for that. One thing I will say is Isaiah Stewart being banged up as their backup big man. He brings a lot of energy, a lot of defensive savvy, great rim protector for him. They just listed him as out tonight with knee inflammation, but I don't know how much you watched of that game. The last quarter and a half that he played, the end of the second quarter that he was in, and then third quarter, he was not moving well. So I don't know what that looks like long term for them, but losing him, the drop off from him to Paul Reed, and this isn't a rag on Paul Reed, but he's not beef stew. So um, that one is really, really tough to swallow because they just don't have that great of front court depth. So we'll see what that looks like long term. They're hanging tonight, so hopefully they can pull that one out. That would be pretty cool. But I just don't think the Knicks are that good. Like
No,
I don't
no,
think they're that great.
the Knicks always flop in the playoffs. And
Yep.
like I said on the, like I said on the when we were going through this the first time, it's a little bit sad for me. I'm a big Carl Anthony Towns guy, so I'm hoping that they do well. Just from an aspect of being a big fan of him, but uh, kind of hoping the Pistons pull this thing out.
Yeah, the Knicks flop, that goes back to, I don't know if you ever remember as a kid watching like the Latrell Sprewell, Allen Houston, Charlie Ward Knicks, that
Mm-hmm.
like the level of talent that was on those teams. Patrick Ewing, he probably should have been
Yeah,
the first one I should have named.
John
Yeah, I mean,
Starks.
those teams always flopped. Always
NBA on
flopped.
NBC with Marv Albert, classic Sunday.
Yep.
When that music hit, man.
The old school jingle was really good back in the day. That was phenomenal. So hopefully the Pistons can pull out game two here. They're down 1-0. Thunder absolutely blitzed the Grizzlies. This was not even a game. If this goes more than four, I will be absolutely stunned. I don't think the Grizz can hang. I don't know what your
No,
thoughts are.
it's a bad matchup for them, especially when the Grizz is two big men. Edie, just he'll get you rebounds, but he's a liability on the offensive side and in some regards on the defensive side. I just think Holmgren and those guys are going to take advantage of him. And Europe, yeah, I would be very surprised if this goes four or even five. So yeah, I would say the Oklahoma City, just defensively, not even like their offense was amazing, but their defense was even better than their offense. And they're just clicking on all cylinders, man. They're not going to be the Grizz have no chance to sniff a game in this one.
You can't play Zach Edey out there in an NBA game. Like, I don't think he's going to last long term in the NBA because if you put him in a pick and roll, somebody's just going to run right around him and he can't defend the rim that far away. And if you're pulling him out to the 3 point line and pick and roll game with somebody that can handle and split, he is not getting you rebounds either. So I think he's going to end up being long term more of a liability. I'm glad he ended up in Memphis and not with the Pistons or anything like that. He was never rumored to go to the Pistons, but I wouldn't want him.
Definitely. I gotta give a shout out to my buddy Steve Van Dam. Huge anti Edie fan. Every time his Sparties were playing Purdue, he's like, I can't stand Edie. All that guy does, he sits in the paint, he just gets fouls, free points. The refs root for him the entire time. So give him a quick shout out. I know he's not a Edie fan at all.
The college game plays way more to size and a lack of skill than the NBA game does because you can just sit in the lane and defend the rim all day long too. And big men in college aren't nearly as prone to being able to shoot and step outside as they are in the NBA. And with defensive 3 seconds, you can't just camp out and sit in the lane. So I don't think that's going to work, but that's for them to figure out. Nuggets beat the Clippers. This one actually was a really good game. This one went to overtime. This was a great back and forth. Russ and Jokic took it for the Nuggets in game one. They're up 1-0 on the Clips. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that one hurts a little bit. I picked the Clippers. I think you were a little surprised when I picked the Clippers, but I don't think you knew at the time because Kawhi's been hurt so long that he was back playing and Harden, and they
I
were
forget
playing
he's even
actually.
in the league,
Yeah,
much less playing now.
yeah, I know, but they're legit, man. They're gonna give Denver a run for their money. Plus, Denver again firing their coach and their GM and the front office issues. Um, it was good for them to pull out game one. I think if the Clippers would have pulled that out, this thing would have been done in six, maybe even five. I still think the Clippers are going to end up pulling this out in the long run.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening there. I think that one's got some intrigue. Those two teams are going to go back and forth a little bit, so that one might get some juice down the stretch. Lakers and Timberwolves. T-Wolves kind of beat up on the Lakers a little bit. They kind of punked them.
Yeah, I told
This
you, episode one, Ant Man.
This seemed
Don't count
like
him out.
LeBron just had no juice, and it was more or less just the Luca show. Um, I don't know what I didn't watch this game live. I just kind of saw some highlights and I kind of saw a little bit of a recap, but it kind of seems like LeBron's running out of gas. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but
Yeah, I don't think it is. Like we were talking about, or like I was mentioning in episode one. Um, I just think LeBron's going to expend so much energy on the defensive side trying to shut down Anthony Edwards that he's not going to have the juice on the offensive side. He's not in his 20s anymore. And I can speak for someone that just turned 40 trying to play sports in your 40s and obviously not a prime superstar athlete by any means, but it definitely takes a toll on you once you go from that 39 over to that 40 mark. So he'll give you the juice on the defensive side. You're just not you get it on offense. So where else do you get it? Like you said, it's going to be have to be Luca, and I don't know where else they're going to get it. So it'll be interesting to
Austin
see.
Reeves.
Austin Reeves, yeah, I do think though he has enough juice though to get him over the edge in game two. I think it'll go to Minnesota tied 1-1. I think Minnesota ends up taking this thing in six still.
This one was kind of a surprise. Last one out west, Warriors beat the Rockets in game one. At least from a rankings matchup, this was a little bit of a surprise. If you look on paper, this is the guys that have dominated the last 10 years, just owned guys that haven't come into their own yet, is what it was. And like, I think some people were banking on the Warriors kind of being too old, a little bit worn out, kind of past their prime. But reality check, Steph can still play. Playoff Jimmy can still get his
That's what
own.
I was gonna
Draymond can
say.
D it up.
That's what I was gonna say. This one's gonna be over in five because of two words: playoff Jimmy.
I think he's got some juice. He's got an edge that he's playing with right now.
Hmm.
He's one of those. I think he buys into that let's win 16 type of thing. Now whether they go on a serious run, I have no idea obviously, but I think you can squeeze the juice with playoff Himmy, and I think he's got enough left in the tank to go on a run. And I I don't know why everybody's kind of so quick to write off Steph, in my opinion. I don't know what the deal is there because he literally carried Team USA back in the summer. And I think he's got a bunch left in the tank still. I think he's got a couple really good years left.
Yep.
Uh, he's always been somewhat injury prone, but Steph's great. I wish he was on the East Coast so that we could watch him play more because he plays at 10 o'clock at night our time and we don't get to watch him play.
Yeah. Yeah. After watching that and after just knowing playoff Jimmy, and I think the best part about it though is that watching Jimmy in the playoffs before, he always had to be the one to carry the attitude and bring the heat. But now that he's partnered up with Draymond, he's more passive, but he's still aggressive at the same time. He doesn't need to have that attitude. He can just go out there and play free because Draymond brings that kind of intensity and trash talk and all that. So I really think it's going to come down between them and OKC. I think those two are going to end up being in the finals.
I think him being with these other cast of characters too, you can get 30 minutes of high intensity playoff Jimmy versus, I mean, for the Heat, he was playing like 45 minutes a game. So I think that difference in overall workload is going to end up being to the Warriors' huge advantage. So we'll see
Mhm.
how that plays long term. But a couple good ones out west, a couple duds to begin. Another dud, the Cavs blitz the Heat. I don't know that that was really that big of a surprise.
No, that one's going to be done in four.
Yep. Uh, Pacers crushed the Bucks. I think this was a little bit of a surprise that it got as ugly as it did.
Yeah, that one, I almost watched that entire game. That was very interesting to see how the Pacers played defense on Giannis. They let him do whatever he wanted and score whenever he wanted, and they did not double him a lot or triple him a lot. They didn't let him get his teammates involved. I think there was a stat that said the last like 15 or 20 games heading into the playoffs, Giannis averaged 14 assists a game, and he only had one. So they're like, hey, you know what? You're going to get yours no matter what. We're just going to make sure the rest of your team doesn't score. You can score 80 if you want, but we're going to beat you 120 to 80. We're not going to let anybody else score. The intriguing piece is Sounds like Dame's out one more game. So when he comes back from that blood clot, and it sounds like he's going to come back in game 3 at least, does that give him enough juice to make this thing a series if they go back to Milwaukee already down 0-2?
Yeah, how much does he even have in the tank at this point? Like, is he giving you 30 minutes a game? Is he giving you 20 minutes a game? Like, what percentage back is he? Nobody really knows. We're gonna have to wait to find out. Do they rush him back and try to get him ready for game two? To your point, like the reports coming out are that he's probably not gonna play game two. But with how they looked after game one, does he give it a go? Who knows? We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, they were saying too with that blood clot there he wasn't able to do anything. So no cardio, no bike, no nothing, no lifting weights. So is he going to be in cardio shape? Is he going to be in yeah, if he does come back for game 3, is it even going to be worth it? Should he even push it? So that's a good point.
We'll see what happens there. Like we said, Knicks beat the Pistons game one. Pistons are now up 11, so they're stretching it
Let's
a little bit halfway through the
go.
third. So hopefully that holds. Knicks went on a 21-0 run in the fourth to absolutely put that one in the bag. Pistons had, I think, 21 turnovers on the night. Can't have it. And they need. He showed up the last 2.5 minutes. All of a sudden, he really woke up, but they needed more out of Cade, and that's not a huge rag on him. But if playoff time, the guys you're matched up against, all of a sudden 10-0 run, 12-0 run, those are going to happen in any 7 game series at some point. And that's where your stopper has to come up with a bucket, has to come up with a way to get somebody an open dunk, something along those lines. Right, wrong, or otherwise, I'm not saying that they lost just because of him, but he's got to be the one that closes down and shuts down that run and gets things squared away for him again. And it just didn't happen in game one. So they're good enough to win this series. So I think they showed that they can hang. So we'll see what happens. But uh, and then in more unsurprising news, Celtics beat the Magic. It was kind of a meh game. The only intrigue was Tatum, I think, was a little bit banged up, but ended up playing through it. So don't think there was anything long term there.
No,
But
those X-rays came back on his wrist negative. He's good to go.
so we'll see. As long as everything keeps progressing the way it should be good. I don't think the Magic have enough to make that much of a series. The C's are just too good.
No, but they are eventually going to be a very solid team.
I
I think
agree.
they're gonna surprise people next year and kind of do what the Rockets did this year with the draft capital that they have and the young talent on the team. Um, I think you had said that Franz was hurt, so if they had him, it might be a little closer. He'll be back next year, obviously. So I think this is definitely an upcoming team, and I think they're going to learn a lot through the play out this matchup against the reigning world champion Celtics. And I think they're just going to be that much better for it next year. So it's not going to be a dud of a season for them, obviously, and I think they got big things come.
Yeah, I just looked it up here. Mo's the one that's hurt. Franz is playing. Jalen Suggs is banged up for him too, and I think he normally starts at point for him when he's healthy. So those two guys, obviously Mo is a role player, but he really settled in a very similar role to what he played when he was at U of M. Very much the villain, right in your face, big defensive stops, trying to bring the energy, get the crowd into the game, and he's really settled into that 15, 20 minutes. I'm going to bring the juice and I'm going to go play with my hair on fire for 15 or 20 minutes. And then I think Suggs is a really good up and down point guard, can really get you in and out of the offense. I don't think he can shoot very well at this point, but I think he can get to the basket. He can shoot free throws, can get them into their sets, and I think he really uh, moves the ball all over the floor for them. So we'll see.
Do they still
See,
have Fultz?
that's a good question.
I think he was the top or one of the top draft picks for the Sixers at one point. Markel Fultz. I was just thinking.
He's
I
out playing for the Kings,
gotcha.
but he was with the Magic for a while.
Yeah, for a hot second.
But yeah, Magic are coming. They're coming up. Most of their guys, I think, are sub like 23 years old, which is pretty wild. So
Hmm.
they got a run coming. So NBA, hopefully we get some more better or some more better So hopefully we get some better matchups here as series progress. I'm hoping the Pacers and the Bucks tightens up a little bit. Lakers T Wolves tightening up would be interesting. So we'll see what happens with some of these. Um, we did get some good ones though, so we'll see what that holds. Next up on the docket, let's hit some NFL draft stuff. Just kind of fly through wherever you want to take it. This is NFL draft season. You're the aficionado here. Obviously, I love the NFL. I don't follow the draft nearly as closely as you do, though.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, like you alluded to when we kicked it off, I always head back north to Michigan. When I moved down here, I always told my buddies that I'm gonna head back home. It's a draft tradition. I think this is going to be close to 10 years, but yeah, it's like Christmas for us when we all get together. It's 2 nights, Thursday night and Friday night. It's going to be intriguing this year. Cam Ward, quarterback, obviously is going to be the consensus number one overall, but after that's going to be kind of a free for all. So it'll get interesting after that. Where does Deion Sanders' son, where does Shadeur end up landing? Most people have him as the consensus number two quarterback, going somewhere anywhere top five to he could fall in the 20s down towards Pittsburgh. I'm a big Jackson Dart guy. I think he's the number two quarterback. I'm not a big Sanders fan. I think I've made that pretty well known to everybody. But so it'll be interesting to see where all that falls. Then you got where does Genty, the running back, fall? Does he go to the Raiders? Does he fall down to the Cowboys? Does anybody trade up for him? Is it going to be another running back in the top 10, similar to Bijan a couple years back when the running back position was left for dead? But now, ever since what the Eagles did last year and what Saquon was able to do people start to reach for running backs and value running backs in the running game? It is a copycat league after all, so it'll be interesting to see. For a while there, running backs didn't even go in the first round. Now he may go top 10, and there may be 2, 3, possibly 4 running backs taken in the first round. So that's going to also be intriguing to see where that shakes out. So I think there's going to be a lot of movement this year in the draft, more so just because the depth of talent outside of the running back position, I think, just isn't there this year. There's really it's been pretty lackluster on the defensive side of the ball and some other positions. So I think there's going to be a lot of trading up and down in the first round. My guess, I say over 6 trades in the first round. But it's going to be a good draft. I just think there's a lot of depth in different positions where they hadn't been in years past.
I think somebody wild ends up trading up to get Ashton Genty. Hot take there. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, but I think of I think I was telling you this. Somebody on a different podcast I listened to was saying that they think the running back position has really become the spot where you invest in that spot once you have basically everything else ready to go and lined up. And as an example, like Saquon Barkley on the Giants, but Saquon's a really good player regardless of wherever he's playing. But Saquon on the Giants would have made absolutely no difference to their season whatsoever. Saquon on the Eagles puts them over the top, and
Definitely.
he's the reason that I mean, obviously they're a really good team end to end, but without him, they don't win the Super Bowl. I think that's pretty open and shut. So I think somebody along the lines of the Commanders, very intriguing team if they traded up to try and get Genty. The
Yeah, they
Chiefs,
would. That's true. They would. Yeah, the Chiefs, I think Andy Reid's always been a running back by committee, though, even going back to his Eagles days. But I would
yeah,
agree
I
with
agree with
you.
that one.
The ones that are intriguing to me are the Steelers. They don't have Najee Harris anymore. They have Kenneth Gainwell, and they have Jalen Warren. Big Jalen Warren fan. Not sure he can carry the load, but they've always been a ground and pound smash football team, going back to Bettis and all the other running backs that they had. So they're intriguing to me. Denver with Sean Payton. Javante Williams signed with the Cowboys.
That's another good one.
So do they move up and give Bo Nix a bona fide stud running back to go with his surprise rookie season when he came out? I think that would be one where they could trade up. So those two teams, the Cowboys, as much as I dislike them and not a big fan of the star or Jerry, Does he trade up just because he missed out on Saquon last year and everybody gave him a hard time about missing out on running back? Does he go from 12? It's a lot easier for them to go from 12 to 7 or 8 to get him than it is for the Broncos and the Steelers in the 20s. So that's a good point of which one of those teams possibly makes a play to move up, or do the Raiders just stay there at 6 and take them?
The Commanders is so intriguing to me. Like they are so ripe for the picking to add a running back because that was the piece on their offense that they made it work. Eckler was a good running back. I think he would be a great number two running back. I don't know if he's still under contract with them or not for this coming year, but man, you add in somebody like that with their offense, and oh man, all of a sudden that Jaden Daniels gets really scary.
Definitely, yeah. I'm a big Brian Robinson fan. Obviously, he's more of a plotter, so not everybody's as big of a fan of his. Am I? But yeah, he. To your point, I think they might be a candidate to also add somebody like Amarian Hampton or Travion Henderson from the Ohio State, and then also your Big Blue could have 3 or 4 guys taken in the first round this year. So kudos to them.
Yeah, Will Johnson's supposed to go in the first round. Mason Graham's supposed to go in the first round. I think Kenny
Grant,
Grant has first round buzz. He's
what
whoever
what
gets
about
him, I think is going to be pleasantly surprised.
yeah? What about Loveland?
Loveland's going to be a monster. I think he's got
So that is 4.
yeah, I
Colston
think
Loveland.
he's got freak status. Whoever gets him, if he can get into the right offense that's willing to get him the ball, I think he could be very similar usage to what's his name that was out in Las Vegas this past year.
Bowers.
Yeah, just where he and if he goes high, he could end up being on that type of an offense. Like I think of Jacksonville, if he gets plugged in with the Jags or something like that, where he's just the only weapon for them to throw to, and he ends up with almost 100 catches.
Hot take here, maybe not hot take. What about Harbaugh and the Chargers taking him
That would be phenomenal because he
with
would force
Herbert?
feed him endlessly.
Because they had man, why am I drawing a blank? I shouldn't be drawing a blank. I believe it's Will Disley
Yep,
at
that's
tight
who they
end,
finished with. I think
and
they had somebody else early in the year, but he,
and they were feeding him, and
yep,
Herbert was feeding him. So that's why I'm thinking, man, maybe he pairs up with his old coach and Herbert and just goes off the charts like Bowers did last year. To your point,
I think Will had a couple pretty costly drops near the end of the season too that either cost him seeding in the playoffs or ended up hurting him pretty bad in the playoff game too. So I wouldn't be surprised if they upgrade at tight end too. They're kind of sitting there middle of the first round, second half, other side of middle, I think. But man,
that's right in the spot where I think he's going to go, unless he
yep.
goes above Ty Warren from Penn State. It's those two I think going to go 1 and 2. It just depends on which team likes which player a little bit better.
Overall freakish athlete, I think Loveland is so much better than Warren. I think Warren is steady Eddie. I think he'll catch everything that you're going to throw his way. Loveland hasn't shown any propensity to drop anything, but like I think Warren is just you throw it to him, he's going to haul it in and he's going to go down right away. I think Loveland is so much more of a vertical threat and run after the catch threat from the tight end position. And everything that I understand Michigan tight ends to be, he is completely leaned into both sides of playing tight end, blocking, catching passes. He lives for it. So I
Yeah,
think somebody's going to get a huge win for that. But we'll see where he ends up. Time will tell on that one.
definitely. Yep. Overall, should be a very good draft. It always is, regardless for myself. But going to be some intrigue. I think there's a little bit lackluster who's going to go number 1 this year, which quarterback, and maybe some of the things in the top 5. But a lot of good, intriguing talent. A lot of good prospects, and it is good to see the running back position start to be relevant again.
I don't think anybody's really that excited about Cam Ward going number one, too. He just doesn't
No.
have the buzz that some of the past number one overall quarterbacks, the Trevor Lawrences, why am I drawing blanks? But
Yeah.
like these,
Eli Manning back in the
yeah,
day.
these like 1-1s where it's
Baker
just like you've known for
Mayfield.
3 years of college football that they were going to be a 1-1.
Yep. Peyton.
And him having one really good year at Miami on a very bad, not very bad, but a pretty mediocre Miami. team, not really making any significant noise from a wins and losses standpoint. I don't think that gets anybody really that fired up. We'll see. Maybe he ends up being better than what we're giving him credit for, but I don't think there's that much buzz.
Yeah, Caleb Williams last year, even though
Yep.
Jaden Daniels outperformed him at two.
Yep.
I think I was reading something today too that I think that Cam Ward is the consensus just because they're trying to catch lightning in a bottle 2 years in a row and hoping that he can be similar to what Jaden Daniels was, even though I think they're two not completely different type players, but almost completely different type players. I think Jaden Daniels is more of an athletic. I'm gonna RPO. I'm gonna be able to run the ball, be a dual threat. Cam Ward can do both, but I don't think to the extent that Jaden Daniels can. So it'll be interesting to see how he pans out. He's going to the Titans. I mean, they have they have a lot more work to do. It'll be interesting to see what they do with the rest of their draft to see what they put around them because they have Kelvin Ridley at wide receiver, Akine. They have my boy and favorite Tajay Spears at running back from Tulane from I think second or third year. They have Pollard at running back, so not a ton of top tier talent there, but it'll be interesting to see how he comes out and performs if it's anything near what Jaden Daniels did. I just don't see it.
I don't see it either, but we've been surprised before. So sometimes guys get in the right offense and it just clicks and all of a sudden things start to take off. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely looking forward to it. Can't wait. It's like Christmas in April.
And then next one up, we alluded to. This one's near and dear to my heart. Just like I don't follow the NFL draft as closely as you do. Uh, you don't follow college football as nearly as closely as I do. College football is way more at my wheelhouse than yours. You obviously watch
Mhm.
it. You love football in general. You'll always put football on. But Lee Corso announced that this will be his final. He has one final appearance in week one of College Game Day after 38 seasons on College Game Day. And this is one of those
Crazy.
things where he's been doing it longer than I've been alive. He's been doing it since you were two, which is just absolutely insane. Like the level of he's just synonymous with the show. He has been part of the show, and obviously the last couple of years it's been very apparent that he's losing a step with his communication skills. He doesn't quite have it the same way that he did. He's almost 90 now. So the fact that he's still doing it, period, and I don't agree with much of anything that ESPN does at this point, but one of the cool things that they have done is they've given him grace to go out, I think, on his terms, and they're doing the same thing with Dick Vitale too. Just two icons that are super enthusiastic about college sports, and letting those two guys kind of ride it out the way that they want to, and giving them the space and the grace to do it, even though it's not what I would call broadcast excellence,
Mhm.
and just allowing them to go out and kind of have their swan songs is really cool. So kudos to Coach Corso. Very, very cool. He's a huge part of game day. The show will not be the same without him, even though it hasn't been the same the last couple of years with him not being a primary fixture of it. But the headgear, I don't know how the end of College Game Day is going to be without headgear. That'll be very, very weird and interesting to see in week two.
Yeah,
But
or if they you almost can't let somebody else take up that cross and keep carrying it, right?
I don't think so. I think you just have to end it with picks.
Yeah. Yeah. That's you would be doing him a big disservice unless he came to them and said, "I want this person to take over or I want you to continue on the tradition." But it's a tradition that he started and should start and end with him in my opinion.
I think it pivots, like we were saying before we started hitting record. I think it pivots to McAfee with some, I think it'll be some sort of mascot gimmick. Like he'll fire off for Oklahoma, he'll grab the rifle himself still or whatever and fire off the rifle as he's making his last pick or something along those lines. So I think it'll finish with mascot gimmicks and antics, but I don't think he'll put the headgear on. I think
Yeah.
I think you have to retire that piece of it. I think they'll McAfee's enough of a clown and he's enough of a showman himself. I think they'll let him do his thing and he'll have something where he finishes off the show. But I think you got to retire the headgear, in my opinion. I'd be disappointed if week 2 somebody else puts headgear on to finish the show.
Yeah, I hear you there. They might also do something because he always wears those massive belt buckles. Maybe he has something where he puts on one of the teams, puts on a belt buckle at the end of one of the teams or something. Could be like the instead of the headgear, it could be the belt buckle or something. But I agree with you, especially when we brought it up earlier that McAfee's going to be might be the one to carry the torch afterwards in some regards. Hopefully, again, it's not the headgear, something a little different, but maybe it's a new tradition that they can come up with that he can kind of run with.
Yep. Yep. So bittersweet, cool run. I've enjoyed watching game day. Like I said, I don't agree with a whole lot going on at ESPN most of the time with their politics and everything else. We don't need to get into that, but I do always have game day on in the background just from I've always appreciated the production quality. I like the stories. I like the Tom Rinaldi stuff. I think that stuff's cool. I like game day atmosphere. I like the college vibe. It's just great background noise. I don't ever really just sit around and watch it anymore constantly, but I'll pop in and watch it while I'm making breakfast and enjoy it with my cup of coffee in the morning on a Saturday, and then it's on and while we're buzzing around the house doing other stuff. So not having them on there, it'll be different, different feel, different vibe, but all great things must come to an end. So
Definitely. So let's give a mixy cheers to old Lee Corso. Congratulations on a career well done.
job well done, coach. All right, and then last up here, we kind of alluded to this one. This is, I think, going to be our spiciest food take yet.
And sweet at the same time.
Yeah, and sweet at the same time. That's well done. Uh, you just kind of thought of this one off the top of your head here, real quick, before we jumped on. I hadn't thought about this one at all. We've gone back and forth on this one for a while beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
Cinnamon rolls. Normally not very controversial topic. I think one of the more unanimously liked foods in general. I think you'd find very few people across the board who just don't like cinnamon rolls, and we both actually love cinnamon rolls. So that's not where we're going.
Definitely. Top dessert.
The hot take here from my friend across the microphone from me is that the orange flavored cinnamon rolls are the premier flavor of cinnamon rolls, and that is absolutely preposterous.
It is tough, but orange, hands down. The orange cream, the little bit of citrus bite in the frosting, the way that the cinnamon roll is shaped, it's spiraled instead of just when it bakes up in a normal flat roll. So you can kind of pick and pull it apart as you're eating it. You throw a little butter on it. I don't know, just the orange and the bitterness of the frosting, hands down, has to be the top for me. I do love the originals though. That frosting is very unique. It's been the same flavor and the same recipe, same ingredients for years. Tastes the same. Licking that lid after you take it off, one of the sweet things in life. As weird as that sounds, love taking that lid off. It reminds me of the same thing as the frosting for a toaster strudel. That's
It
why
probably is the same.
I don't know. It's very close. It's the same thing. I haven't had a toaster strudel in forever. It just made me think about it. I got to pick up a pack.
They have cinnamon roll toaster strudels now, by the way.
Oh man, and the cream cheese ones. But yeah, definitely. Maybe that's what we can talk about next week is favorite flavor of the toaster strudel. But going back to the cinnamon roll, yep, my favorite is the orange. I know I'm severely in the minority here, but I know we a few years back we went on a wine weekend, and you were grabbing a tube of cinnamon rolls. Yeah, I mean even when we go on guys weekend, you would grab a tube of cinnamon rolls. It's a Sunday morning tradition. I always try to sneak in the orange ones, and they get swatted back out of the cart, back onto the shelf. So maybe maybe one of these years, maybe this year, I'll sneak them in somehow. I'll bring a pack on the side and throw them in, and maybe you guys will try them. It'll change your mind. It'll change your world.
I've always said the best can of cinnamon rolls is the 4-pack or 5-pack of the biscuit shaped ones.
Yep.
The infused cinnamon and also the biscuit shaped ones. Pillsbury has absolutely mastered the ability for a biscuit to get perfectly cooked. The spirals have such a propensity to either get overcooked or get undercooked. The middle on the spirals a lot of times ends up overly chewy, and it's not awful. That's
Yes,
not a
that's what I
bad thing.
like. I'm a soggy guy. You got to remember who you're talking to here.
Yeah, you're
Maybe it's not
soggy
even the
everything.
maybe it's not even the orange or the frosting. Maybe it's just the middle doughy part and then the outside crispiness. Maybe we're onto something here.
You're just limp biscuit on everything. But
Got to save these old teeth, man.
the
Save these from having to go to
spiral
the
is
dentist.
it's just something about the spiral has just a propensity to not get perfectly cooked where the biscuit is going to get perfectly cooked almost every time. And that it's that same thing that like McDonald's has with the McGriddle having that flavor infused throughout the entire thing. That biscuit has cinnamon flecks throughout the entire thing, and oh my goodness, it's so good.
Yep, that's your tradition on Sunday morning on the way home is to snag one of those if we don't have the cinnamon roll twos. But I'll give you some props here. You nailed it on the pack of them and how many are in them. And normally, growing up, my parents would put them all together in the pan, and they would all bake up, and you'd have the middle one, and you'd have the outside ones. I think the way you do it is you put them all individually on the pan, and you have it down to a science, the cook time, temperature, everything. Yours always come out prime, so got to give you props there. You always nail it, my friend.
The other thing I discovered a couple years ago after getting a griddle, this is absolutely wild. I don't do it nearly as often as I should. Taking the biscuit shaped cinnamon rolls and putting those on a griddle, press them down as thin as I can get them. They obviously puff up some once you start cooking them, but use those kind of as the McGriddle buns and put those on the outside of some scrambled eggs and some bacon and make a homemade McGriddle with those things and then dip them in a little bit of icing. Good Lord. Oh my
Yeah.
word.
Well,
Outrageous.
we got something for guys' weekend this year.
Absolutely outrageous. Wrap those up in a little Mickey D's wrapper, dip them in some perfect warm icing. The other thing you didn't mention is if you're the one that iced the rolls, you get the container on the end and you get a finger full of icing. Once the container's been emptied with the icing, you get to lick the container along with the lid. So
Definitely.
be the guy. Pro tip: be the guy that ices the cinnamon rolls in the morning because you get that extra kick of frosting.
Definitely. Little joys in life.
Yep. So can't wait to hear we won't name drop anybody. We can't wait to hear one of our close friends. It'll absolutely drive him nuts that he doesn't get a name drop in the podcast, but we can't wait to hear his hot takes to see what he thinks of the cinnamon roll hot take. I'm sure he's going to get fired up and get even more annoyed that we didn't drop his name in the pod. He's dying to come on. He's dying for a link. But
Yep.
he's self-proclaimed snack king. So
Yep.
we'll have him on eventually, but for now it's a good running joke. So,
Definitely. Got to have enough of him where he gets fired up so the first time he's on, it's going to be even that more epic.
yep, he's going to come on and just absolutely unload. So,
Definitely.
it'll be fun. He knows who he is. He'll know exactly who we're talking about. So, kudos to him to a future
Definitely.
episode.
Nice. Well, Big Red, another episode in the books. Good stuff, good topics. Looking forward to continuing to keep it going. And as always, I don't think either one of us spilled the mixie. So cheers to episode 3. Looking forward to episode 4. Everybody, again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for continuing to hang with us. And cheers. Have a great week.
Cheers, everybody.